So yesterday I made a short video about the Posse Comitatus Act and why U.S. troops will be sent to the U.S.-Mexican border to help deal with this tide of immigration won't be able to carry weapons there. And a few people took issue with my statement that the American Civil War was fought over slavery. I got stuff like, he's just a brainwashed Jew fanboy, just ignore everything he says. Well, I'm definitely the most Irish Protestant Jew I ever met, but let's keep going here. Funny because it was Democrats that did slavery, the cause of Civil War, and Jim Crow's laws. Congrats, liberal YouTuber, you played yourself. I guess I'm as liberal as every other YouTuber with a Sig Sauer sticker on his monitor, but you do you, boo. Or, the Civil War was fought mostly over taxation, not slavery. Or, I would expect this channel to give more accurate information than this. The Civil War wasn't fought over slavery. Lincoln spun it that way later in the war, but it was not about slavery. You're dreaming if you think it was. And this got me thinking, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Civil War wasn't about slavery. I mean, if I'm ever wrong about something, I'm going to make a video about it. Now, I research stuff and I debunk propaganda. It's kind of my jam. So I figured there had to be some kind of Taylor Swift breakup letter sent to the federal government when each state seceded from the Union. And, you know, when you break up with somebody, you often tell them, hey, look, I like you, but, and then you list all the reasons you don't like them. Now, those letters or documents or meeting notes should say something about why they're breaking up. There's got to be a way to say, this is why we are seceding from the Union. Here are the reasons. So I actually looked. And most states had these things called Articles of Secession. How convenient. Maybe we should start there. And let's see why each state seceded from the Union in their own words. Now, all the work I did is on my Substack. You can go there for free. You can check every single source that I have, so you can look it up yourself. I actually learned some really interesting things researching this stuff, so stick around for this. Now, the states that seceded from the Union are, in order, South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina. Now, let's start with South Carolina. This was the first state that started it all. It seceded from the Union first. And by the way, when you read this stuff, the language is a little flowery, but that's how people spoke 160 years ago. Now, the South's entire secession letter is pretty long, and it reads like the Facebook rant of your Uncle Charlie, but here's the first paragraph. The people of the state of South Carolina in convention assembled on the 26th day of April AD 1852 declared that the frequent violations of the Constitution of the United States by the federal government and its encroachments upon the reserved rights of the states fully justify this state and then withdrawing from the federal union. But in deference to the opinions and wishes of the other slaveholding states, she forbore at that time to exercise this right. So here they're basically saying that they thought about leaving back in 1852, but they stayed because the other slaveholding states asked them not to. And then this letter goes on to mention slavery 17 more times. So I think we can fairly say that South Carolina left the Union because they wanted to maintain slavery. Read the document for self. It's on my Substack for free. Now, let's look at Mississippi, which was the next state to secede. The position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. Wow, I didn't even screw around. That's like the third sentence. You can read it for yourself, but it doesn't get better. Trust me on that. Next is Florida. Now, Florida didn't actually mention slavery in their letter. It was basically very clinical. We, the people of the state of Florida in convention, assembled, do solemnly ordain, publish, and declare that the state of Florida hereby withdraws itself from the confederacy of states existing under the name United States of America. So they didn't mention it in their breakup letter, but there is a document called the Declaration of Clauses, and in that they mention slavery quite a bit. Okay, next is Alabama, and the fifth paragraph down reads, as it is the desire and purpose of the people to meet the slave-owning states of the South. 7 paragraphs total, but nothing here on taxation or states' rights, but they do mention slavery, so I think that goes in the slavery column. Now let's look at Georgia. The people of Georgia, having dissolved their political connection with the government of the United States of America, present to their Confederates and the world of the causes which have led to separation. For the last 10 years, we have had numerous and serious causes of complaint against our non-slaveholding Confederate states with reference to the subject of African slavery. This is literally the second sentence here. Okay, next is Louisiana. Now, Louisiana is kind of interesting because they don't mention slavery in what they call their Ordinance of Secession. And you can read the whole thing if you want, but I think that Louisiana might have been reluctant to leave the Union because New Orleans was the terminus of the Mississippi River, and there was a lot of global trade going on through the port of New Orleans. So Louisiana did not mention slavery in their breakup letter. So let's look at Texas. And as you know, everything is bigger in Texas. And at first I thought they had the longest secession letter, but they were shorter than South Carolina by about 200 words. If South Carolina is a Facebook post from your uncle, Texas is a Taylor Swift song. But that third paragraph gets you down to this gem. Texas was received as a commonwealth holding, maintaining, and protecting the institution known as Negro slavery, servitude of the African to the white race within her limits, a relation that had existed from first settlement of her wilderness by the white race, and which her people intended should exist in all future time. Whoa, Texas, you went there. All right. One of the funny things is that a few paragraphs later they say the imbecility of the federal government, which just goes to show you that Texas has always had an opinion about those idiots in Washington. All right, next up is Virginia. First paragraph, the people of Virginia and their ratification of the Constitution of the United States of America adopted them in convention on the 25th day of June in the year of our Lord 1738, having declared that the powers granted under said Constitution were derived from the people of the United States and might be resumed in whatsoever same should be perverted to their injury and oppression, and the federal government having perverted said powers not only to the injury of the people of Virginia, but to the oppression of the southern slaveholding states. So I'm going with Virginia goes in the slavery column of mentioning slavery as one of their grievances. Next is Arkansas. Now, the Arkansas letter does not mention slavery, but in their convention notes it says, the people of the northern states have organized a political party purely sectional in its character, the central and controlling idea, which is the hostility to the institution of African slavery. So I think we can put that in the implied column. Now, Tennessee and North Carolina don't mention slavery in their secession documents. In fact, North Carolina actually raised some troops to fight in the Union Army, although they were mainly from the western, more mountainous part of the state. But North Carolina and Tennessee did secede. So what we have here is 8 states where slavery was either specifically mentioned in their letter of secession or implied in their convention documents. And then there's 3 states where it was not mentioned: Louisiana, Tennessee, and North Carolina. So that's 72% of states, or 3-to-1, southern states considered slavery so important that they mentioned it in their Taylor Swift breakup letter. I didn't make this up. I'm not the New York Times throwing fact checkers out of the 1619 Project because it ruined a predetermined narrative. I am a truth seeker. I will give it to you straight, and all the evidence is on my Substack and available for free. So, from this evidence, which literally comes straight from the individual letters of each state, I think we have a pretty good indicator that slavery was a major cause of the American Civil War. Not taxes, not states' rights, slavery, because they literally say it in the letter they're using to send to the government to say that they're breaking up. Hey, want more info? It's on my Substack, and thank you guys so much for watching.
Hey everyone! New Ryan McBeth t-shirts and hoodies from Bunker Branding are available. I'm gonna get the High Mars shirt. What are you gonna get, Donald? The Patriot shirt, because I'm a patriot. It's the best shirt, the biggest shirt. Make 14 tangos great again. What are you gonna get, Barack? Let me be clear. I'm gonna get a Drone Sweet Drone shirt. What about you, George?
I'm gonna get a Knife Hand shirt because they're weapons of mass destruction. What about you, Billy?
I'm going to get a landmine marker shirt because my presidency always blew up in my face.
I'll tell you what I'm going to get.
Ronald Reagan, but you're dead.
I came back to tell you that no matter our politics, we're all Americans. And we should buy Ryan's hoodies and t-shirts because they pay for the stock footage and licenses that allow him to make awesome content. So come on down to Bunker Branding and buy a Ryan McBeth t-shirt or I'll start the bombing in 5 minutes.